Welcome back to our Irish travel vlog. As we continue with day 8 of our Irish road trip, we headed east along the Causeway Coastal Route. We just left Mussenden Temple and Downhill Domain and were headed for the Giant's Causeway. Along the way, we noticed the coastal terrain became much more rocky, and after we had passed Port Stewart on our way to Port Rush, we saw by the side of the road the ruins of Dunluce Castle. Built on a basalt rock outcropping in the North Atlantic, it dates back to the 16th and 17th centuries. At various times in history, it has been occupied by both the McQuillan and MacDonalds, feuding clans in Northern Ireland. The castle is open to the public, and we'll put a link in the notes below. And although it had a lot of help from CGI enhancement, you will recognize it as House Greyjoy from the television series Game of Thrones. We arrived at Giant's Causeway, the only UNESCO heritage site in Northern Ireland, designated by the United Nations in order to protect and recognize cultural and natural locations of significance throughout the world. It was about a 1 kilometer or 0.6 of a mile walk from the parking lot and visitors center down to the actual causeway. There is a shuttle bus that you can take for a small fee. The walk down to the causeway is beautiful, and the day remained clear with blue skies, although it was a cold, blustery wind. The Giant's Causeway is made of hexagonal stones that look man-made, but are actually basalt columns created by hot lava 40 to 60 million years ago. As the lava cools, the surface splits, much like a muddy lake bed when it dries in the sun. One surface of the stone is concave, and the other is convex, giving it an articulated appearance. This is called columnar jointing. The wind and weather wears away some of the rock formation. These have been worn into a formation they call the Chimneys. The terrain there is beautiful, and some of it reminded us of the southwestern United States.
My father-in-law always said, "Never let the truth get in the way of a good story." Even though the Giant's Causeway was created by volcanic activity millions of years ago, I'm going to talk about Finn McCool and his legendary involvement. You might remember Finn McCool being mentioned in our Sligo video. Finn was legendary in Ireland as a leader and a warrior. He was known as a giant with great strength. One story says a Scottish messenger visited Finn's home. He told Finn of a Scottish giant named Benandonner that wanted to challenge him to a fight. Finn and Benandonner would shout insults and threats across the sea from their respective coasts. An angry McCool starts throwing large stones and chunks of land from the Antrim coast. He starts throwing it into the sea to build a pathway to reach Scotland for the fight. Benandonner starts building his own stone walkway to take up the fight in Ireland. McCool gets to a point in his construction when he sees the giant Scot resting. McCool realizes how large Benandonner is and wisely heads back to Ireland. Benandonner sees the completed causeway and chases after McCool. McCool, running as fast as he can, loses a boot. That boot still remains on the beach to this day. McCool ran to his home in County Kildare with Benandonner hot on his trail.
But more about Finn McCool in a minute. We headed on down to the backside of the causeway. Here we were reminded of a clip that we'd seen posted by the National Trust a few years back.
The giant Finn McCool has gone into winter hibernation. We have some footage that has been taken on a mobile phone. Look, look.
Well, we didn't have any luck locating the entrance to Finn's secret lair, but we did have fun seeing the beautiful scenery, listening to the waves crash, and enjoying the sunshine that day. Boy, that's some big foot, Chris. We followed the trail around, and we had a choice to make between the red trail that went to the top of the ridge or the yellow trail, which was a little easier. Since we wanted to see the pipe organ, we stayed on the yellow trail and followed it around. The pipe organ has columns that stand 45 feet or 15 meters tall. It was impressive. But the sun was starting to sink and we were doing Bushmills for the evening, so we headed back toward the Giant's Gate. So this is the Giant's Gate at the Giant's Causeway. The sun is kind of right in my face, so I'm hoping that I can kind of keep it out of there. There we go, that's a little better. It's a beautiful area. If you're curious about what happened to Finn McCool, we'll pay him a visit in next week's video, as we spend 3 days based in a historic old mill in the village of Bushmills. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button with our faces on it. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next Wednesday from the village of Bushmills.